G'day, this is Mr. Thompson. I'm going to show you how to use Excel to tabulate and to graph your data for your plant growth EEI. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm in Excel, I'm going to put in a heading, plant growth EEI data. I don't know if that's the right heading, check with Mr. Shannon, but let's just make that a bit bigger. Control B to make it bold. Alright, now we need to tabulate our data. So as I understand it, you've been growing a bunch of plants and each day you've been checking how far they have grown or how much they've grown. And I understand you've been doing that, some plants with sunlight, some plants under red light, some plants under blue light, so plants under different colour to see how well they grow. Alright, so let's design a table. So let's put date here. So we're going to put down here the dates. So let's put some dates in. Let's just say 1st of August, let's say 5th of August, 5th of the 8th, 7th of the 8th, and 10th of the 8th. Okay, so there's some dates. They're the dates that you're going to measure the growth of your plants. Okay, so let's do our sunlight table first. Okay, so we'll call this one sunlight 1, plant called sunlight 1, sunlight 2, and sunlight 3. Okay, so there are our 3 plants. They're going to be under sunlight. Now that's a little bit squishy there. I'm just going to come up here and just by clicking on this line between the B and C, I'm going to expand that. In fact, I'll do that later. I'll come over here. I'm going to put average here because once you've you want to know the average height of your 3 plants on each day. Okay, so now I'm going to select all of those 4 columns. So again, the way I did that, I came right up the top and clicked on B and dragged across to E. Select all of those columns and just adjust the width of those columns. There we go. All right. So what are we actually measuring? Sunlight 1, sunlight 2, sunlight 3, and the average. I believe that you're measuring the internodal length, the internodal length. So you know what, it'd be nice if I labeled that. So I'm going to actually create a new row. So I'm going to right click on that 3 there, right click and insert, and that inserts a new row on top of there. Now I'm going to grab all of that, I'm going to select those 4 cells there, and I'm going to merge and center those cells, and now I can write over the top of these internodal lengths. Let's spell it correctly, internodal lengths. Okay, so that helps me see that all of those headings there, or the data that I'm going to put in here, is internodal lengths on various days for different plants, and then the average internodal length for all of those plants. All right, in fact, let's just, I'm going to put some borders around all these cells now, just make it look a bit pretty like that. I'll do the same here, and there we go, it's starting to look like a table. All right, so now we need to put our data in. So let's see, on day 1, the internodal length for plant sunlight 1 was 23 centimeters. Well, actually, you know what? If it's centimeters, I should put up here, if I come up to that cell and press F2 so that I can start to edit that cell, I should actually say my units are centimeters. I assume your units are centimeters. I assume your plant wasn't 23 meters high, but so 23 centimeters. Okay, so on day 1, our plant sunlight 2 was 26 centimeters. On day 3, it was 29 centimeters. Okay, so as the day goes on, as the time goes on, you're going to measure the internodal length of each of your plants, and just bear with me here while I enter this data. Now this data is completely made up data, so please, when you look at my graphs, don't think that your graph should look like my graph. I mean, it should be built the same way mine's built, but my data is completely made up. To work out what the real data should be, you're going to have to do the experiment yourself and graph your own data. So like I say, just because my graph doesn't look like your graph doesn't mean your graph is wrong, because my data is made up. All right, averages. So I'll put the data in here. Now I need to work out the average. So of course what I could do is I could say 23 plus 26 plus 29 and divide it by 3, and that would give me the average. In Excel there's an easier way to do that. I can just type equals, which means I want Excel to calculate a formula. Now there's a formula called average, so average, open my brackets, and then select all of these 3 cells, 1, 2, 3, close my brackets. There we go. So now that has told me that the average internodal length on the 1st of August was 26 centimetres. In fact, what I can do now, instead of, I could type that in again and type it in again and type it in again, but instead what I'm going to do is I'm grab that formula there, that box there, and this autofill handle, I'm going to grab that autofill and drag it down like that. And there we go, and that has calculated the averages. Now, my decimals don't look very good. I'm just going to play with my decimals. So still with all of those selected, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to click on the decrease decimal button. So if I do that, you can see coming down, there we go. So all of my cells now have a displaying 1 decimal place. So Excel still remembers the full value, so it still remembers 29.333333. So when we do further calculations, it'll use the exact value, but it only displays to 1 decimal place. So very useful. All right, so let's build the rest of our table. So what else do we need to know? Once we've calculated the average, we want to know the change in internodal length, the change in length. So let's say change in length. Okay, so in other words, starting with from day 1, how much has our internodal length grown? So the way I'm going to do that is, well, let's come down to the 5th. So on the 5th of August, our average internodal length was 29.3, whereas on the first day it was 26. So to work out that change in length, I need to do 29 minus 26, or 29.3 minus 26. So let's do that with Excel. I'm going to go equals that cell there minus that cell there, and then hit enter. Okay, so it tells me that my change in internodal length is 3.3 centimetres. Okay, so a bit of some good growth there. All right, now I'd like to be able to use my autofill and scroll and fill down here, but that's not going to work. And let's have a look at why. If I scroll that down, okay, it's giving me some numbers there, but I'm going to click in onto this cell here and click F2, or press F2. Now, what's that calculated? That's calculated the change in length between the 7th of August and the 5th of August. Okay, and if I look at this one down here, it's calculated the change in length between the 10th of August and the 7th of August. That's not what you want. Okay, what we really want is we want all of these calculations to be between the 7th of August and when we first started our initial internodal length. So what I could do is I could then go and edit each one of these individually. So F2, and then I could drag that cell, that red bit up to there, and then hit enter. Okay, press F2 again. That's calculated it correctly. I'm going to show you a trick that will make things a lot easier so that our autofill does work. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to, actually now you can see if wherever I click, what I really want to do is I want to use this, I'm going to use this cell here, this initial average length. I'm going to use that a lot of times. So I'm actually going to give that cell a name. Okay, I've got to start again, so I'm just going to delete those there, delete all those. Believe me, it'll be worth it when you learn this trick. Okay, so this cell here is the cell that we're going to refer to a lot. So because we're going to refer to it a lot in our formulas, I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to come up here to the name box. So I've got that cell selected, come up here to the name box, click on the name box, and let's call it something useful. Let's call it sun, because it's sunlight. Initial, did I spell that correctly? Initial, that's okay, length. That's a bit wordy, it's a bit long, but that's okay. Sun initial length. So that value now has got a name. Now if I press enter there, now before I move on, you can't use spaces in these names, so I don't have any spaces. That's why I've put them all together and put capital letters at the beginning of each word so you can read it. Okay, enter. All right, now let's try again what we did before. I'm going to come here to change in length. I'm going to say equals, I want that cell there minus that cell there. Oh, look at that! It's put the name of the cell in, not the number of the cell, not the letter and number corresponding to the cell. Now, if I hit enter, now I'm going to drag down. So I'm going to drag that formula down here and here, and let's have a look. F2. Look at that. Because I've named that cell. When I do that autofill, that cell is referred to all the time. So that's exactly what we want. And in fact, what I can do, I can even autofill upwards, and that'll give me change in length of 0 there, which is exactly what we want. In fact, what it's done is it's said it's taken E5, which is this cell, minus sun initial length, which is also this cell, which of course is going to give me 0. So that's worked very nicely indeed. All right, good little trick, that one. All right, so our next column, actually that's not very tidy, I'll tidy that up in a minute. Let's our next column, the next column we need is our percent change in length. So by what percentage has our length changed? So let's think about what we need here. So really what we need to do is we need to work out, let's start down with this cell here because it's easy to understand. So we want to look at the change in length divided by the original length expressed as a percentage. The change in length divided, so that change in length is this one here, divided by the original internodal length, which is that one there, expressed as a percentage. Okay, so let's say, how do we do that? So first I'm going to do equals because it's a formula. Change in length, that's that one there, divided by the original length, or the sun initial length. Good. Okay, and then I want to multiply that by, well actually no, I don't want to multiply by anything. Let's just hit enter on that. Okay, and that's giving me, I want to express that as a percentage, so 0.128, so that should be 12.8%. We don't have to do any math for that. Excel can display that as a percentage just by coming up here and clicking on the percent style. There we go. So it said 13%. You know what? Let's play with our decimals here. Let's increase the decimals. 12.8%. There we go. 12.8% is the percent change in our length. Now, because if I press F2, because I'd already named that cell, I should be able to use my autofill. Yeah, and let's check again. Press F2 here. Very good. So because I named that cell, every time I autofill that formula to other cells, that sun initial length always refers back to that cell there. Okay, very good. Okay, in fact I can even fill upwards and I should get 0% there. Yes, very good. All right, let's tidy this up a little bit. Again, let's select both of those columns here and let's drag the width of those columns out a little bit. There we go, so they fit in like that's better. All right, now again, let's put some borders around these, some borders, good. Now also, you know what I might do? It might be nice just to, this is sunlight, so let's make it a nice sunlighty colour, make it yellow. Yeah, let's put yellow headings all the way over here. All right, so that's our sunlight data done. So we need to do the same thing again for all our other types of light. So red light, blue light, green light, all that sort of stuff. So what I'm going to do, just to make things a bit quicker, I'm going to select that whole table, and I'm going to Control C to copy that table. I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to just hit Enter, and it's taken a copy of that table. Now, I need to change some things in this table. Firstly, I need to change that data, and secondly, I need to name this cell. So you remember up here we named this cell, we called it sun initial length. So we need to give this cell a name as well, because when we do our calculations, we're going to need to refer to this cell a lot. So let's do that first. So I'm going to, this cell here, I'm going to name that. Well, actually, let's work out what we're going to do next. Let's do red sunlight or red light. So red 1. Okay. So what I'm doing here, I'm coming to the cell, F2 to enter that cell, home to go to the beginning of that cell. Let's delete all that. Okay. Red 2. Let's do it again. F2 home. Delete, 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 delete. Red 3. Okay. We're going to put some different data in here. Let me put the data in now. 25. 20. Again, this is made up data, but you put your own data in here. 27, 22, 24. And you can see what's really cool is it's calculating averages as we go. But all right, let's keep going. 29, 24, 26, and 32, 26, and 28. Okay, so there's all my made up data put in there. Now this is, now let's see, did my average calculations, do I need to change them? Let's press F2. Now that's correct. F2. See, it's still averaging the right cells. F2 and F2. So you will have noticed when you type the data in here, or when I typed the data in here, you'll notice that the average changed as well. Okay, but these ones here, this is a problem. If I go F2 here, this is calculating the change in length based not on the original blue length, internodal length, but on the internodal length for the sunlight, for the sunlight plants, which is not what we want. So, okay, so let's come into here and let's name this cell. So this cell here is the one, just as in the same way we named this cell we're going to need to name so we can use it in these formulas here. So what did I call this one? I called this one sun initial length. So what if I call this red initial length? Let's do that. Red initial length. Red initial length. Okay, so when I come over here, my changing length, well actually let's start with this one here. Changing length, F2, it needs to be E14 minus, not sun initial length, so I'm going to delete sun initial length, minus that cell there, red initial length. Okay, that's F2, yep, that's worked, that's good. Okay, now I'm going to autofill down to here, and then autofill back up to here. And so all of those cells now should be correct. F2, yes, F2, correct, correct, and correct, good. Okay, same thing over here. F2, I need to not use, I need to work out the percentage, but not in relation to this cell here. I need to work out the percentage in relation to this cell here. So again, I'm going to delete all that. And, all right. And autofill that. There we go. So now, for my red plants, I've done my red table, so it's a lot quicker this time around. We just had to copy it and make some modifications. All right. Now you know what else I'm going to do? This is yellow here. Let's make it red. Let's make it. Oh, that's too bright. Let's go more colours. Can we use a red, a light red that doesn't look pink? How's that? That'll do. Okay, a light red that doesn't look pink. There we go. Okay, so there's our red data done. So we're going to do the same thing for our blue data, our purple data, our green data, and we're going to have a bunch of tables. So I'm just going to pause the video here, and when I come back, that'll all be magically done. Ta-da! Okay, all done. Now, what I'm going to do over here, we need to create a summary table, which summarises the days of growth against the average change in length as a percentage. That was a mouthful. Okay, let's just type that in. Let's build the table first, and then we'll populate the data second. Okay, so I'm just going to come over here a little bit. That'll do. So days of growth here, and then I want over here. I want my average change in length, but I want my average change in length for sunlight. Sunlight, spell it correctly. Sunlight, red. Blue, green, and purple. Okay, and up here, you know what? I'm just going to put a heading across all the top of all those ones there. So I'm going to select all of those cells there. So with the keyboard, if I hold down Shift and use my arrow keys, it does that. Or I can just use my mouse and select the whole lot of them. Okay, I'm going to merge and center those cells so they become one cell, and that's going to be the average change in length. Average change in length after how many days of growth? Okay, so let me just stretch that out a little bit there. Okay, all right. So the number of days between the 1st of August and the 5th of August. Well, actually, after we'll put 0 days first. That'll be our first. So after 0 days of growth, then we're going to have, guess what, we're going to have 0, 0, 0, 0. That's pretty boring. But after 4 days of growth, so in other words, on the 5th of August, we're going to put our data for the 5th of August. After 6 days of growth, so 2 days later, we're going to have our data for the 7th of August. And then between the 7th and the 10th, that's after 9 days, because from the 1st of August to the 10th of August, after 9 days of growth, we're going to have some data for each of those. All right. You know what? I don't like how it's got all that over on the right-hand side. I'm just going to center justify that. That looks better, doesn't it? Okay. So days of growth. Now, what I could do is I could manually type all this stuff in. Actually, I forgot something up here. I'm just going to go into average change of length, and I'm going to put brackets as a percentage. Okay, as a percentage. So I'm going to put percentages in here. So I could manually type in these figures here into here, or I could cut and paste. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to use an equals reference. So equals, I want whatever that cell is there to be equal to that cell there. Hit enter, there we go, it's just put it in. Now I can autofill that down to here. Okay, and you'll see that it's because these cells are directly under each other and these cells are also directly under each other, when I autofilled it automatically put the same formula. So F2, you can see that one equals that one. That one there equals that one. Beautiful. Let's do the same for the red. So do the first one manually, equals that cell there. And in fact, let's do all of these. Blue equals that cell there. Okay, and green equals that cell there. Enter. And purple equals the first of the purple cells there. And now, in one fell swoop, I'm going to select all of these cells here, and I'm going to autofill them all at once. Ta-da! Pretty cool, huh? All right, so there's our summary table. That wasn't too hard. All right, so let's just put some boxes around that. Where are we? Put some over here. I'm just going to choose all borders. Very good. And if I wanted to, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's get a little bit silly about this. Blue. Let's put blue there. Green. This might seem a little bit pedantic, but you know what? I reckon it makes it a lot easier to read. As long as you don't go silly with the colours and make it look, really silly. And maybe you could argue that I have done that, gone a bit silly. Actually, that blue's too dark, isn't it? Let's use the light blue. Yeah, good. Let's make that sort of just a grey colour, and we'll make that a grey colour. Yeah, now I'm getting a bit silly, aren't I? Okay, but anyway, hopefully, if I've done that well, it makes it easier to pick out quickly which cell is which. All right, we're on the home stretch now. We just need to graph this data. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is select the data I want to graph. So I'm going to select that table. Now you notice I haven't selected that merged cell at the top. Excel doesn't like it when you have merged cells when you try to graph things. So again, just clicking and dragging over all that data there, including the headings and so forth. All right, now I'm going to insert a graph. So if I come over to insert, and now you could choose a line graph or a XY graph or whatever you think is appropriate. I actually find that this recommended charts works pretty well. So let's see if we can do recommended charts. So click on recommended charts. Now that doesn't look like what I want. Let's have a look at these. No. That looks pretty good, doesn't it? That shows me the days of growth on the bottom and the percentage change coming up the side. That looks pretty good, and it's a scatter plot. It's not a line graph, it's a scatter graph. Now, talk to Mr. Shan about the difference between those two. It's very important. What you might think is a line graph is perhaps different to what Excel calls a line graph. A scatter plot is the one that we want. So we click OK here. There we go. Now it's created a graph straight away. I want it bigger than that, so I'm just going to drag that out a little bit. All right, so are we done? No, not really. Let's tidy this up a bit. Okay, so the first problem I can see is chart title. I want to give it a proper name. So let's call it something like, I don't know, the capitals effect of light color on plant growth. Let's try that. Nice meaningful title. Growth rate. How about we do that? The effect of light colour on plant growth rate. And click away. Alright, so that's locked in. Now we need some titles, don't we? We need some titles, some axis titles. So every science student knows there's easy marks if you just put the titles in, and there's marks lost if you don't. So we're going to I'll click away, click somewhere on a blank part of the graph, like up in this corner here, and this plus appears. So plus means I'm going to add something that's not on the graph there already. I'm going to add axis titles. So I could choose to come over here and add just one or just the other, but I'm just going to click on axis title because I want them both. Right, there we go, axis title. So let's come down to here, click in here, and we'll type, instead of axis title here, let's say that is days of growth. Oh, spell it correctly, growth, days of growth. Click away. Then I'm going to come and click on this one. Now this one's weird. I'll select that whole thing there. When you use your arrow keys, it sort of doesn't quite work the way you think it works, but you'll work it out. So this should be, let's call that average internodal growth, and the units, well, that's a percentage. Okay, average internodal growth as a percentage. Okay, so that's looking good. All right, there is one thing that I'd like to fix here, and that is our sunlight. It'd be nice if our sunlight was yellow or orange, and our red was, actually our red is pretty close to red. We can make it a better red. Our blue, well, that's not blue, is it? That's purple. So our colours are all out of whack. Let's change that. Okay, so what I'm going to do, again, I'm going to click away to start with. Now I'm going to click once on the line for my sunlight. I can tell it's my sunlight because it says down here in the key, and I can also see when I click on the graph it's got this data highlighted. All right, so if you don't have this panel out here, what you can do is you can right click and format data series, and it'll bring up this panel on the side. That panel was already up there for me. Okay, there's a bunch of categories here. This fill and line, that's the one we want. We want to change the line color and the marker color. So the line, obviously, is those lines there. The markers are the little dots on the lines. We need to change both of those. All right, so line, I'm going to change the color to, let's go orange. If I use yellow, you're not going to be able to see it very well, are you? A yellow line on white paper. So I'm just going to use orange because it's a bit darker. So that's my line. Come across to marker, and I'm going to do the same. So you might have to use these little twisties here. So I need to check for my marker options. I don't need that one. I need my fill and my border. So I need to change the fill, and we can make it a solid fill, and the color will be orange. Good. And my border, I want a solid fill. And also, it's okay. I think what it's doing is it's picking up the color from the line. That's great. Okay. So now you can see if I click away, there we go, my sunlight one looks like sunlight. Okay, let's do one more and then you can do the rest. So I click here, that one's red. I'm going to do my line first. Let's pick a proper red. Let's go red. Come back to marker. I want solid fill, and color, I want red. And border, I want solid fill, and color, I want red. Good. Okay, there's my red one done. Now let's do the other ones. So this one here is blue, but it's actually purple, isn't it? If I click on here, I can see the key tells me it's purple, and up here the data tells me that line should be purple. So let's change the color to purple. Again, change the color to purple, and go to my markers, and let's see, I want a solid fill, and I want my solid fill to be purple, and my border, I want a solid line, and it's purple there again. Okay, so my purple's done. Blue, and blue. Bring me up to the top again, and line should be blue. Blue, and this one here is green. Okay, so let's go green, and our marker needs to be solid fill. Green and green. Solid line green. Okay, good. All right. That's a pretty good graph, I think. All right, we're done. Hope that helped. If you need more help, see Mr. Shannon or come along to our tutorial. Mr. Shannon and I run a tutorial together in SBG6 on Wednesday lunchtimes. Come along, you don't need an appointment, just come and learn some stuff.